All right. Well, hi, Melissa. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to be here.
Of course. So let's just talk through real quick, kind of the agenda of what we're going to do today. Is we're going to do a quick intro, kind of a societal shift, what we're seeing, the personal perspective that you might have on this, and then just a quick wrap up and conclusion. Conclusion.
hmm
I'm sorry. Okay, so go ahead and start with just describe yourself and your personal and professional or your professional background.
Sure. My name's Melissa Nicholson. I'm the CEO and founder of Muse. Until very recently, was the only U.S. job share firm in the entire United States. There is another firm, I think, that is oh my goodness, I'm blanking. Oh, in Omaha. So we're the first U.S. job share business, and what job sharing is two people actually sharing one job. It's a work practice that I did for nearly a decade in the fast-paced, 24/7 run radio industry, and so I job shared myself for a little over 9 years with several partners. It was amazing, like a way to work in a hyper productive, efficient way, but just 3 days a week with a partner who takes the helm the other days of the week. And so we had one shared day and full-time benefits. So it was an amazing way. I was
Wow.
actually ended up still being the breadwinner in my home while working 3 days a week, which is why I did it for nearly a decade. And I left that and started Work Muse because I wanted to empower people and employers to really elevate and scale this practice, which has been around since the 70s, but has remained one of the rarest flexible work practices. And so I wanted to empower people to create their own job share situations and started a company that's based and founded around training, implementation, and support. And I'm a mother of two kiddos. They're 11 and 13. My daughter was 6 months old when I started job sharing,
Wow.
and it changed our entire lives. It changed our entire lives from a co-parenting perspective. It changed our entire lives from having the actual time that I needed to enjoy all the firsts and all the moments and being able to unplug and completely leave work behind while my partner had it like 100%, and not having to always feel on all the time, which is, I think, really hard for us to do in this connected world. And right now, I'm so thankful that we are this connected world because I think there's a lot of opportunities for us in this kind of unprecedented moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. I could take that in 100 directions. So kind of talk about the launch of Work Muse, how it started and where it is today.
So Work Me has really started from my own pain point, which is I think what happens with a lot of startups, a lot of businesses, and it's probably very similar to the Poppy story
Yeah.
in the way that I see this like need and it's not being filled. I had friends that were stay-at-home parents. I had friends that were working full time. Everybody felt pulled in a million directions and stressed out all of the time. I actually owned a video production company with my husband and chose to go back into the radio industry, knowing there was an opportunity, a small, tiny opportunity to job share, and really thinking ahead to when we had kids, and knowing that I wanted to work this way. And and so I stayed for a very long time. 10 years in the radio industry is like, might as well be 40. It's a super high time. I
Yeah.
had 8 managers in those 10 years,
Oh
if
my
that tells
gosh.
you anything.
Wow.
And still in that way was able to work in this hyper productive, very efficient team of two with an awesome job share partner who has your back in any situation. And it's just a very supportive, incredible way to work. And when I was kind of outgrew my own like I just was ready for a new challenge, ready for a second shift. I started at 30, left at 40. I really was looking to transition into software or tech, and was really hitting a lot of walls when it came to job sharing. And every time that I hit that wall, there were other types of flexible work available to me, like 1 day or 2 days remote, or a flexible start stop shift. but I knew what it was to completely separate and prioritize my work world from my life world.
Yeah.
And I just really wanted to continue, and how much I could actually, how good I could be in my job with the support and the second brain of another partner, which is probably what you find with your business partner as well, that it really helps to have that person to brainstorm with and really use both your skill sets and lean into those.
For sure.
So it was my own pain of not being able to find that. And I dug into the research. I spent a year digging into the research while I was still job sharing. My kids were then in elementary school, and realized that the big gap was that there was no training ever for
Wow.
employers or employees. So I spent a year developing the training, and then in the last 5 years have piloted, worked it all out, worked with hundreds of coaching clients, worked with companies too. And already before this moment that we're in, the last 8 months at Work Muse has been completely dedicated to creating the first ever online education around job sharing to help people do it the right way and find the right partner and present the business case to their employer and have a policy behind it and all the best
Wow.
practices and all the support they need to be very happy job sharing. So
That's awesome. Big
yeah.
kudos to you. I was just thinking when you were talking how hard that must be, but like it seems like you really worked out all the kinks. Like if you're doing a complete job share, like how does the communication not get lost? How do things not get, pushed aside? I
Mm-hmm.
know lots of women.
Ironically, one of the biggest concerns that managers often have and many other people around job sharing.
Thanks
Do you
for
want me to
joining.
pause?
Sure. Thanks for joining, Vanessa. How are you?
Hey, Vanessa.
Oh, you're muted. Okay. That's okay. We can go ahead and go through.
Oh, sure. So I'm trying to think exactly.
I was talking about how the communication doesn't get lost in complete job
Okay.
sharing.
So yes, so communication getting lost. A lot of the big misconceptions or worries or fears that managers often have around job sharing, communication, accountability. How does that handover system look like? Do I have to double communicate to both people?
Right.
Those things, by the very structure of job sharing, are things that job share partners actually are incredibly good at. So they have a communication system down, a handover process, so that managers, stakeholders, clients, and coworkers that work with them find them on top of and ahead of their deadlines. All of those kind of things. It becomes a very seamless process and is very simple in practice. So that's kind of to answer that question.
Yeah, that's awesome. So would only big corporations use this? Would entrepreneurs use this? Trying to find
job sharing is a practice that could be put in place anywhere from the smallest business up to the biggest business. And in fact, it's just a very creative, interesting work practice that also from a diversity and inclusion standpoint is really great because you can pair people of different backgrounds to gain a deeper appreciation and understanding of one another. So you can do cross-gender job sharing, cross-gender identification job sharing, cross-cultural job sharing, cross-generational job sharing. So you can pair people of different generations with one another. So somebody who's maybe a boomer can actually be paired with someone who's a millennial and really get tech organized. And this person can share their kind of like their institutional knowledge with them, and you can almost be training the next generation of managers through that way too. So there's just and obviously for women it's an incredible practice, and for parents, because when we have the motherhood penalty just sitting there for all of us right at the midpoint in our careers, and we don't have a social safety net in the US that really has subsidized healthcare, childcare, and the basic things that allow people to continue working, or at least working in a part-time capacity, it really creates a thing where we lose so many women in the workforce at the point that they have children or they have to find a different way to do it. Right. And job sharing was a way that you really don't, you can lean into your career, but part-time.
Interesting. Well, I'm glad you shed all that light on there because that I feel like I've learned a lot just from talking to you for this short time. So let's change topics and go into the societal shift. So kind of why you're talking to us right now. What are some of the working from home challenges for parents?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this so much this last week for everybody because it's not just working from home, right? It's that we're suddenly working from home without a lot of time to put processes in place, make sure that we have our space worked out, all of those kind of things. And we're suddenly working from home without childcare. And that's the biggest clincher for everybody, right? So we're suddenly working from home without childcare. And whether you have infants and toddlers, whether you have preschool age kids, elementary age kids, or even older, for everybody, it's a challenge. And some people are going to have to be homeschooling for, elementary on up. And those who do not have kids that are older, those who have young kids, they're going to be they have to be present for their kids just as if they were a child care worker, right? So they're just not going to have the time that they expect. So I have a couple of things that I think are really important. The first thing when you're suddenly working from home without childcare is to find a space for yourself that you can work in. If you have an extra room, that's amazing. If you don't have an extra room, and it just all depends on what space you're in, making sure that you're not working from your bed where you sleep, like sitting in bed and working. You don't want to mess with your sleep during this time, slumped over on a couch. You want to find a place, even if it's part of your dining room, and you're at the dining room table. Shift where you eat your meals with your family. Make your own space. It could be a closet that you clear out, an extra little closet, and it becomes an office. You just need a little designated space. The other thing that's really important is during this time, we're going to face it feels really rough this first week. It's going to feel rougher and it's going to be really hard. We're going to be dealing with a lot emotionally. And the most important thing that we can do is put on our own oxygen mask for our kids. And it's going to be incredibly hard. And the first thing I really want to give everyone permission to do is to not feel we are kind of an overworked culture anyway in the U.S. We feel like we have to be on task. We have to have everybody scheduled. We've got to do this. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I've seen a million schedules thrown around the internet among friends and everybody else of exactly how they're going to do this and every slot worked out. Give yourself a lot of grace in the next few weeks and a lot of permission to not do things as you in your mind would like them. If you're not getting up, if your family's not getting up until 9 in the morning and you're in your PJs, or you have a day where you just need to chill,
Yeah.
It's okay. If you have a half a day you can't work because you just can't do it that day, it's okay. I think right now what I would love to kind of give you guys from my experience of job sharing and having a partner to hand over the work to, and also my experience of working remotely for the last 5 years in my little modular office, is almost treat your partner at home, if you have a partner, like your job share partner. You need to kind of get together and figure out where, based on your kids' nap schedules, routine, so you're present for them, when can you do your work and when can the other partner step in? And vice versa, and switch the hat, and making sure that both partners are really stepping in and stepping up for a co-parenting household in this period of time. I think before the day even starts, if you can just find two morning rituals that make you feel good every day. For me, it's walking my little Jack Russell mix. So Howard. So for me, it's walking Howard, and I actually listen to the New York Times podcast, The Daily. It's a 20-minute podcast on the news of that day. It's very relevant for what's going on right now with the coronavirus, and and then I leave my social media kind of behind, and I really don't hop on when I see press conferences happening and all those things. I'm leaving that there. I can't control that right now, but I can control my mental state. And that's going to be the most important thing. And then if you're also trying to get into your work routine and your work schedule, writing down 3 things that you'd like to accomplish. If you only get to the first one, that's okay. Just like we were talking about giving ourselves grace, but just writing down 3 things you'd like to accomplish for the day. If you kind of can set those couple of little things where your morning ritual, it could be like journaling. It could be doing yoga with Adrienne. We are very, very lucky. We were just talking before our online chat, and we're very lucky to live in a connected tech time where we have so much available to us. And setting up little virtual play dates. I saw somebody do a virtual dance party for their 4-year-old the other day. That was so great. Setting up some things where the kids can connect with their friends, and if they have, finding those moments for them and for you. Give yourself a virtual happy hour with your friends. I have a women's group that gets together once a month at Petrini's, rain or shine, for 3 hours. We call it the Ladies of Brilliance. It shows up on our calendar. It's just like an automatic invite. We go, oh, it's Tuesday night. It's time to go. And we're going to schedule a virtual hangout instead because we miss that community. And I think finding that right now is really important.
Yeah, I agree to all that. That's super helpful. So now that everyone's working from home, what implications do you feel like this has on the mental health epidemic that may be coming? Hopefully.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think there's a couple of things. Therapists everywhere are doing teletherapy right now. I think this is the time. Don't worry about, you might normally in a month buy a bunch of stuff from Old Navy and buy this and that. Don't worry about anything. Worry about your mental health and well-being and do what is needed to take care of your mental health and well-being. Really try to be a really good community member during this time. I went to Boggy. I have been in quarantine for 8 days, but yes, I think it was yesterday. Time kind of slips away in this space too, and that just happens. That's what I've experienced in my reality of the quarantine. But I went for the first time to Boggy Creek Farm, which is open, and I love that place. And I used to take my son when I job shared, and he was a little thing, every single Friday, and we'd go on the farm and check out, breathe in the air and check out the chickens and pet the farm dog and get our groceries. And that place is open, and it was wonderful because I went and got my groceries. We have a garage apartment, and our tenant has been sick. She's 65. So I got her, she has bronchial pneumonia during this. So I got her groceries, and then I have an 80-something-year-old neighbor who lives alone, and I bought extra ones for her, fresh farm things that had just been picked that day, and brought them to her, gave her my phone number, and just made sure and stayed a safe distance from her, but put those things on her porch. And then she came out, and we were about 10, 15 feet apart, and talked and just had a conversation with her. I think connecting with your neighbors right now, your friends, is really important. There's another suggestion I forgot to say, is that just like you have, so there's some research from National Geographic, that the Blue Zones research, that shows that the number one thing that makes people happy at work is having a BFF at work. And I really shared with people, I was like, find that person that you work with. If you're a solopreneur, this may be different, but if you work in an office environment or you have a small business, find that person and have your mental check-in, your check-in in the morning with that person. How are you doing? How's it going? How's your day going today? We're going to have really hard days ahead. So just having that person, and then having a couple of friends too that you check in with, especially if you have friends who are by themselves quarantining because their mental health is, we're going to be very taxed as parents, but some of those people are going to be equally taxed in an isolated way where they feel very lonely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So I think those kind of things, finding community where you can.
Right. Right.
And that, if that's being on your front porch and your neighbors are walking the dogs, we've noticed so much of that happening this last week. And it's actually, I feel like I've connected so much with my neighbors in ways I haven't before.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be very important.
Yeah. I think that a lot of, I'm just trying to anticipate some of the questions that we might have going forward. I think it's just the whole, gaining that understanding from those who work in other larger companies that might not be affected because they're not a parent. They're just like, we'll get the job done. It's all, I think, about, talking to the right person to give yourself that grace and just setting the stage ahead of time. Like, hey, this is the situation I'm in. Yeah. Yeah.
Transparency. And managers at companies are going to have to get nimble, and they're going to have to do things completely differently. Now, a silver lining of all this is that flexible work for people is here to stay. Remote work is here to stay. Once the entire country has gone remote, first of all, companies are going to see it's not as hard as they've been making it out to be. Everybody's going to get up on the technology from each generation. And in fact, even people who aren't working, grandparents and stuff, because we want to FaceTime with them, right? We want to stay in touch with them because we can't see them right now. Even if they live in the same city, you can't see them for their own health and safety. So those things are going to really change, and managers are going to have to do this, and this is why it's like a prime time for flexible work, a prime time for trying out innovative things like job sharing. When you've got all of these working parents suddenly home, but with no child care, being able to job share and homeschool half the week and then hand it over to your job share partner is a great way for employers, especially employers who are going to have to eliminate jobs through this. It's so sad, but they can eliminate a job without eliminating an employee by having them job share. But I think that what is so important is for managers to be transparent and open, and they're going to have to think in a design thinking way so that they are trying out different things. They're going to have employees that have vastly different schedules of when they can work based on the age of their children. And they're going to have to figure out ways that they can communicate with the team so that everybody's boundaries are respected, work is being completed, and that people, like if someone is able to work a 9 to 5 day, but another parent who has infants or toddlers has to work during the 2 nap times and from 8 to 9:30 or 10 at night. How are we going to navigate that? So there's going to be a lot of managers and employers have to get on the bandwagon right now to change everything that they currently thought they knew about managing people. They're just going to have to lead with empathy.
Yeah, for sure. That's, I think, what we're going to have to see shift. So going into you kind of tapped on it a little bit, but your personal perspective. So what does coronavirus, what impact does it have on Work Muse right now?
Well, I mean, for Work Muse, we were taking a large part of our business online. And obviously, so I want to speak to what impact it may have on all your small business owner members, which is going to be really important to them. This is going to have a financial impact on people. Even if you have an online business, people are not going to have the same discretionary income to spend. And I think it's really important to show up for people right now, to meet them where they're at, to find out what their needs are, and to make things accessible and readily available to them. So for instance, with our job share program that is coming out, we're now going to, not only can where you're going to be able to pay 1 payment up front and then 3 payments, we're going to a 12 pay. So they can pay monthly in 12 installments. We're going to have a pre-sale where they have a discounted rate. We're going to be updating everything, and we're going to be surveying our community because this is actually a prime time for them to get in front of their employer and present a very innovative solution that can take care of a need right this moment. Employers are heartbroken when they have to fire people.
Right.
And being able to present them with a solution that takes care of a lot right now is really important. Our program was going to be dripped, so it was going to be over a 9-week course, because most people, when they get into job share situations, it takes them a while to wrap their head around it. There's certain steps, and they may have some transitions at work. Maybe they're changing careers, or they're returning from a career break or whatever. So we had a fast, medium, and slow track for people to choose when they get in the program to kind of get their goals in place. And I'm surveying the community to find out, do we need a fast track program?
Yeah.
Like a fast track program, and how to change those things. So one of the things of finding a job share partner is one of the things within our course was having in-person coffee time with that person and talking through some real discussions. Well, of course, that's going to transition to a Zoom conversation. So we as small business people, we need to realize that people have more time, but they're going to feel the financial pain immediately, but that doesn't mean they don't have needs. And you need to survey your community and find out what their greatest needs are. And you need to do some things to show them that you're showing up for them right now. People aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for a leader. And you need to be the leader in your small business.
For sure. Yeah.
So for whoever your clients, your customers, whoever you're serving, if you can super serve people and show them that you are there for them, you're listening, you're not tone deaf, and support them through this, which is what I think it's so great that you're doing this for your community right now, Mandy.
Yeah, thank you. That's, it's a hardship on all of us, so I feel like we're just all going through it and learning together, so we're not band together and figure out the best solution for everybody. What implications has coronavirus had on your family?
So on my family, we have been, so I will tell you, this is where the conversation gets really real for me. We've been in self-quarantine and isolation since Thursday. So my son is 11, and he had a low-grade 100-degree fever with coughing, with achy body, all of that. And it really broke my heart, because when he was, the night before he got sick, he said to me, I was putting him to bed, and even though he's 11, you will be hugging and loving on your kids all their life, right?
Sure.
And so I was patting his back and putting him to bed, and he started crying. And he said, Mom, I feel like I'm getting sick right now, and I feel like I'm going to infect people.
Oh.
Because he's at the age that he, it's been in the news, and I was like, oh, don't be silly and everything. And so when he got a fever, we immediately made rules. We live in a really small bungalow, and we immediately made rules in our house, because we didn't want to get it if that's what it was. We didn't want to give it to anybody else. And this is before the national awareness. Even though it was only a few days before, it really made a difference. Like, nobody really understood what we were doing in our friend group.
Yeah.
But we just decided we're staying home. We're not leaving the house. We had already gotten dry goods and things like that, and Tylenol and things, some. So we had enough for 2 weeks. We had enough that we would have for a 14-day period. And we, everybody got a beach towel to use. We got rid of hand towels. We had assigned seating in our living room so that everybody was 6 feet away from my son. It was really, and eating, we had basically, like, we ritualized everything in our house around keeping a distance from him. And you really take for granted how much you hug and love on your children, and how much they need you to hug and love on them, until you are doing that. And he has been fever free for 3 days, and 2 days ago we decided we can let that rule go. Because that mentally was doing more harm than good in our house. And he felt like a leper. We were all experiencing PTSD from it. So it wasn't just the antsy feeling of being home together. It was an extra layer.
Yeah.
And So getting to even leave the house to go to Boggy Creek Farm yesterday, and it was completely safe, and it's not people, and it's out in the open and all that stuff. That was just such a breath of fresh air to me. And I'm really glad that the entire time I've been running, exercising, taking the dog out. But um, I've also noticed a lot of really good things I really do think there are silver linings, not in just the flexible work world and the remote stuff and all that. There are a lot of silver linings in all of this. And I just want to say self-compassion is really important, and self-care and all those things. So when I was saying oxygen mask, like, I know a lot of people are feeling really antsy, scared, anxiety ridden, all those things. Whatever you can do to decrease your anxiety right now. I know you want to stay informed. You'll be able to stay informed. Just, get a New York Times digital or Washington Post digital subscription or something. Don't let the fear drive you. Really reach for your best inner self, because the quarantining thing is really hard, and we're probably all going to have to do it for a really prolonged period of time. And we really can't, as business owners, we can pivot, we can get creative, we can get nimble, we can get scrappy, and that's what you need to do. You need to get scrappy, but we have to recognize, like, we're all as a nation going to be financially devastated. So we have to, there's things you can control and things you can't control. But the most important thing is your hat with your family, how you are with your family, and moderating them, and just love on them extra. Love on them extra. And when you feel, the other thing about quarantining, and we noticed it too, and you really have to, as parents, you really got to be on top of yourself, each person individually, because after 2, 3, 4 days, you'll start to feel the edge come in. Things are, did you do that? Like, you'll feel yourself getting edgy with your partner. And it's really important to, when someone says, God, you're being a little, oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah, okay. Maybe I need to go in the other room for a moment. Yeah. My husband has started a virtual book club with his best friend who is self quarantining by himself. He's recently divorced, and he's like all by himself. So they're doing a book club. My husband's never done a book club in his life. He's an avid reader, but he's never done a book club with anyone else.
Yeah.
So those things. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, I think that's important to mention. Like, everyone's like, oh, pivot as a business owner, but like pivot as a person also, really hone in to not change who you are, but reach that community that you were talking about, and, in a different light, because we can't see everybody the way we used to now. So, I mean, just yesterday we did a Google Hangouts with the kids in our class, or for my daughter's preschool class, and it was like 7 3-year-olds, and it was loud and just chaotic, but the kids loved it. And I think, it raised a lot of good questions. They needed it for sure. It raised a lot of questions. Some of the older kids in the class are like, well, I'm not sick. Why aren't I at school? And, those things were kind of.
That's real hard.
Yeah.
I think that's really hard. And I know that the Poppy community may be a little different because of the age of their kids, but I have friends who have older kids than my kids, and like high school age, and it's really hard. It's spring break right now. There's kids out there partying at Port A, and they see their friends, and there's a lot of social pressure. Like, why are we staying home? Why are we doing this? And these parents are having to deal with these kids who are hard right now.
Yeah,
they're not getting it. They don't understand. They see their friends. Their friends are all on social media and Instagram, not even Instagram, but TikTok and Snapchat and all those things. It's so crazy. And it's like, no. Like, the one good thing about toddlers and little kids is it's a change. But if you can create a pattern in your house around, like, this is what we're doing now, here's our little schedule, and not have it like so tightly, like you need to be educating them. You just need to be having them, have things to do, little art projects and things to do in the house.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see a lot of business owners who have these summer camps and everything else that are going to be pivoting to doing workshops that are available to help you in the house. So they'll be able to bring you things where you're going to have, an art day or a baking day or a thing, So and people will step in and be creating those opportunities to support parents.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's important and what we're all set out to do. So, quick conclusion. Let's just wrap up.
Yeah.
You touched on some of the other silver linings. Any other silver linings you want to share to us? You know, what's to come?
So I was looking at your questions, and from the economic perspective, I want to give a couple of silver linings too. So we know it's going to be hard, but I think some of the silver linings is that we're going to get not only more creative in our businesses, but there might be some offerings and some things that we learn about that are presented to us through this unique opportunity that are going to change the way we do business, that we're going to be calling on ourselves in our work environment in a different way. So instead of it's all about work and deliverables and this and that and the other and goals and how to hit that, we're going to be thinking about the whole person who comes to work, where there's no way to now separate you come to work and you're just a worker bee and you like don't have a family at home.
Right.
That's no longer, that's the past. And employers are going to be thinking about the whole person as far as putting on design thinking hats and brainstorming and coming up with creative things and then trying them. And that may not work so much, but we're going to try something new. This is like a kind of awesome moment for grabbing onto innovation right now. Like we're going to have some really interesting, amazing things that come out of this. From a personal family perspective, having time, parents are always struggling to get any time with their kids, right? They're running from soccer field to this, to, mommy and me class, to that, to work, to this. You're going to have so much time with your kids right now. And think of it like you're on a sabbatical. Think of it like you are, and think about it like you're taking a vacation in your neighborhood. It sounds crazy, but there's all these lovely like parks and things around you. Get out in nature. Nature is a silver lining. Like just taking your kids, like everything is blooming right now. Like just pointing out that a woodpecker is on that tree, or, there's so many little things to pay attention to now in a good way because you have time and things are going to embrace the slowdown. We're always so busy. We run at such a busy pace in the world that we miss half of it. Embrace the slowdown, and really connection and community is everything. And I think that reestablishing that and remembering and really developing that is something that when this is passed in a few months, people are going to be so happy that they really nurtured their relationships. You probably have talked to people you haven't talked to, in 6 months on the phone or on a FaceTime. Or we've seen our grandparents more in the last. We have 5 grandparents that are all between San Marcos or Austin. And we've seen our grandparents more in the last week than we have seen them all year, I think.
Yeah.
We've been FaceTiming every single day with all of them. Aww. So those are some real silver linings.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you so much for being here and talking through this with us. Can you just tell us how we could get a hold of you if any of these Poppy members or listeners want to reach out?
Absolutely. So the website to learn more about job sharing itself is workmuse.com, WORKMUSE.com. We have an online Facebook group to help people make job share partner connections. It has free connected lessons around job sharing so that you can really learn about job sharing beforehand. And we have job share job ops once a month in there. They're very rare to be advertised in the US, but we drop them into our group once a month. And it's called Job Share Live Life Plus Slay Work, and that's on Facebook. We also and when you go to the website, WorkMuse, if you want to learn more about job sharing, sign up for the newsletter. So
Awesome.
sign up for the newsletter, and that's where we're going to be sharing everything, all the details, pricing, specials about our online education program, JobShare Academy, that's going to be coming out in April. So it's a
Yay, exciting.
great way. Now you have time to take online courses.
Yeah.
You have time to think about and do things differently, and employers have never been more willing and open to embrace a different way of doing things. So it's a great opportunity and time to do so.
For sure. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. I appreciate you being here today, and we will be in touch soon.
Okay, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much, and best of luck. Lots of love to your entire community.
Thank you. You too. Virtual hugs.
Okay.
Bye.